Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. 1 pound fish. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the B Team. I'm Ryan Brauninger, filling in for Richard Zane as a very capable co-host, a very funny co-host, a very positive and upbeat co-host.
3 compliments in a row.
Luke Evangelist, except for when Bucky McMillan loses a recruit.
Hasn't happened yet.
It did happen.
But you know what? The beauty of this is, last time I came on this show, there was breaking news for Bucky McMillan in A&M basketball recruiting. So maybe it'll happen again while I'm
He got a commitment. That's right, because I was in Salt Lake City. I was watching the show. Thank you for filling in that day. Thank you for doing it today and tomorrow. We got a lot of moving pieces in the office this week. Nothing we can't handle and nothing that we can't adjust to. Kay, just so you are aware, I have that music still playing in my ears. I don't know if the people can hear that. There we go. Perfect. We have a lot of moving parts. We got a lot of people filling in and pulling double duty. This is my third of what I think is like 8 radio shows of the week. So I have been actively throughout the day to day trying to take care of my voice. I've never been a guy whose voice gets tired or goes out, knock on wood, but I'm trying to take some preventative measures for that. So I had some hot tea at lunch, which put me right to sleep. I didn't even know that liquid had that effect on me. Put me right to sleep. But I have a lot of talking to do, so I may be leaning on you to make sure you just have some opinions and have some chest behind them. You know what I'm saying?
I'm an opinionated individual.
You are opinionated. And I'll tell you who else is opinionated, but it went right back on fraud alert this week.
Matthew Dawson, who's sitting right behind that wall. This guy changes his favorite quarterback in college football like he changes underwear. Okay, and I'm just tired of it. He sends me and Richard these texts about Heisman odds changing, and I'm like, well, what happened to Sawyer Robertson? Yeah, that was his guy.
Yeah, you jumped off that bandwagon pretty quick. Then it was Baron Morton. I'm fairly certain, although I cannot be sure, I'm fairly certain that he was on the Devin Dampier wagon for a little bit.
Sounds right.
So I just, where does it stop? So it's just a flavor of the week kind of thing.
Next, he's going to pick Connor Wigman to go in and beat Texas Tech this week.
I would be fired up if Connor pulled that off. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's for a later day. And by later day, I mean that's for tomorrow's show where we pick games. Today, we're going to go around the sports landscape. We're going to talk about some things that went public today professionally. And then I've got some contender or pretender at this point in the year, the non-SEC edition. But the first thing I want to do, okay, is I want to talk about this list that Bill Connolly of ESPN put out today. He ranked all the Power 4 quarterbacks. And this went public, I would say a couple of hours ago. So in enough time for me to look at it, digest it, and go, how did he get here? And I will say this, I did not read the breakdown of each player, and I think it's just by QBR. And it appears, so it is in descending order of QBR. Because his number one quarterback in Power 4 football throughout the first month of the season is Jaden Mayava of USC.
I tell you what, I kept scrolling until I saw the quarterback from Oklahoma, who I will not spoil where he is on this list. And the fact that I had to scroll multiple times to get to John Mateer, it gave me all I needed to know about the validity of this list.
Well, it's based on one number, but my thing is...
It's not totally based on one number. Like, there are some guys, like Brendan Sorsby has an 87 QBR and he's down, but it's like mostly descending QBR ranking, but there are some flip-flops by a couple spots.
Yeah, Jaden Mayava was right off the rip. He had me scratching my head for how did we put this list together? Now his QBR, according to Bill Connolly, is 93.4. He says he was let down by his defense against Illinois on Saturday. Mayava is comfortably number 1 in total QBR through September, and among QBR qualified quarterbacks, he is one of only 2 to rank in the top 20 in both completion rate and yards per completion. Illinois was comfortably his worst game of the season, and he still threw for 364 yards with a total QBR of 85.5. What I will say for Jordan Mayava is I think he is a better fit for the structure of the offense that Lincoln Riley wants to run.
Caleb Williams won a Heisman Trophy in that offense, but it was almost like Johnny Manziel winning the Heisman Trophy in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Mm-hmm. The ball's not coming out on time. It's a lot of improvisation and off-script plays, and they lead to these massive chunk plays. And both Manziel and Caleb Williams ran that style to a Heisman Trophy. But I think Jaden Maiava can function within the realm of the offense like it's supposed to. So you're going to get a truer look at what exactly Lincoln Riley's system is with this kid at quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see why he's won. The numbers definitely pop off the page, but we're talking about a quarterback who, like, he mentions how his Illinois was his worst game and he still had 364 yards. Yeah. There are quarterbacks on this list that haven't had a bad game yet, like Trinidad Chambliss. I don't know if he should be number 3, but he hasn't played poorly at all. He's been everything that Lane Kiffin needed and more, and he came out of nowhere to do it. And so I just scroll down this list, and I see quarterbacks like Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza who haven't had a bad game yet.
Dude, I think Dante Moore is
really good wins behind it. And it's like, who has USC beaten? Who is Jaden Maiava, aside from what he did last year against A&M and to close out that season, who have USC beaten behind his arm?
Well, I think too, but the team that's got to be the most excited to see Jaden Maiava at number 1 on this list, their quarterback's at number 7 on this list, CJ Carr and Notre Dame. I will say this. There was a lot of folks that were skeptical about CJ Carr coming into this year. He's been pretty good. And I think the more that Notre Dame plays, we're figuring out they're really good on offense.
Yeah.
Like really good. Without elite playmakers at wide receiver, I think they're good at receiver, but they're not game breakers like Casey or Mario.
I saw all over Twitter that Jaden Greathouse said that A&M's corners weren't a problem for him. I thought Notre Dame has an elite playmaker out there.
Just look at the skill, and I like Jaden. He's probably a little gassed up because it's A&M and home state kid. But if you look at their receivers, who's the lacrosse kid?
Jordan Faison.
Jordan Faison. He would be like their most elite playmaker, and I don't know that he'd be elite in this league in the SEC, but he's a good player, no question. I think they got a lot of good players at receiver, but CJ Carr, I think, has played well above what anybody thought their expectations for him coming in the year. And let's go just look real quick. I'm going to go look at Notre Dame's point totals. We know that they scored 33 against A&M in South Bend, and I think A&M's defense is okay, not great. That's a pretty good number, but they blitzed Arkansas last week. They could have scored 100. They could have scored 100. So
here's what 42 at halftime.
Here's what they've done offensively this year: 24 on the road against Miami. I think Miami was. When I watched A&M play Notre Dame and compared to Miami, I thought Miami was the more physical team. I was really surprised at what Miami was able to do on both lines of scrimmage. So they put up 33 on A&M, so 24 to 33, and then back-to-back weeks of 56. And if you look at their schedule, they'll probably blast Boise State. They're going to blast NC State. Notre Dame needs USC to be really good because the rest of their schedule they should motor through with very little resistance, especially now with Syracuse. You look at in late November, they host Syracuse on November 22nd, and without Steve Angeli, that passing attack looks very, very different. I thought Syracuse was going to be able to put up a game and cover and potentially win against Duke. That was never close. Duke blew them out of the water. So the rest of Notre Dame's schedule is really light. The only marquee game they have left is at home October 18th against USC. They would like to see the Trojans climb back into that top 25. But the point is, CJ Carr and that Notre Dame offense we're learning pretty good. So it's really because you won, it tastes a little bit better. It goes down a little bit smoother that you allowed 33. And you start looking at what else Notre Dame's doing to the competition on their schedule.
Yeah, and that's, like you mentioned, critical for how good that A&M win over Notre Dame continues to look. And ultimately, what if we're 3 months from now and the playoff picture is coming down to it and it's A&M at 10-2 or 9-3 and then Notre Dame at 10-2? A&M's got that head-to-head over Notre Dame. But Notre Dame didn't lose a game for 10 weeks straight.
If you're A&M, I think if you're an A&M fan, you want Notre Dame to lose another one.
Yeah, just to make sure,
because you don't want you don't want that conversation to even be had, even though you have the head-to-head win. You know what the national media is going to say.
Oh, it was week 2.
Yes, it's a very different Notre Dame team. They'll say all this stuff. They'll make excuses for Notre Dame. But also, I don't want Notre Dame as a bid stealer because I'm looking at the topsy-turvy nature of the SEC right now, and I'm hoping that Notre Dame is out, and I hope that the ACC is a one-bid league.
Yeah, because you know the Big Ten is going to take 4 spots simply by that schedule imbalance.
Right, but I think between the SEC and the Big Ten, there's 9 spots.
Yeah.
And I would like for the SEC to have the 5.
Yeah.
And if the SEC has 5 teams get into the playoffs, I think one of them is going to be 9-3.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then it comes down to just politicking, and it's a resume beauty contest.
Yeah. Well, on this quarterback situation, if the leading passer in the country and the dude with the most total touchdowns, Sawyer Robertson, is 21st on this list, what does that tell you about what this list is? If the guy who the whole definition of being a quarterback is passing yards and touchdowns, he leads the country in both, and he's 21st on this list. Now, maybe if he had some great wide receivers and it was all yak, you could say, all right, yeah, you could justify putting him in maybe the teens, but are there 20 quarterbacks better than Sawyer Robertson? I'm just having a hard time with how this list is constructed.
But they've lost two premier games.
Was it because of him?
How did he play against Arizona State?
Let's see.
They were in catch-up mode against Auburn, so they had to throw it a bunch, and really that was their only chance to move the football, which is crazy when you watch the way Auburn moved up and down the field on Baylor, and A&M choked them out on Saturday.
Yeah.
There is a distinct difference in the talent level on the roster here in College Station compared to 90 miles north up in Waco. I don't think there's any arguing that.
He threw for 253 touchdowns, 1 interception. They scored 24 points. I
think for Sawyer Robertson to have he had to win that game, and even though he threw for a ton of yards against Auburn, just the aesthetic of that game, you're like, dude, Auburn's so much better.
Yeah,
they were so much better than Baylor on that day.
Josh Hoover, 23. I just feel like these are really good quarterbacks, and I'm not convinced that there are guys better. There's that many guys better than him.
I looked at that list earlier. Marcel's like 26, right?
Yeah, and so Olin, we power rated the quarterbacks in the league this morning on TexAgs Live, and Olin had Marcel number 1. I wouldn't have Marcel number 1. I've been very pleased with how Marcel has played.
Yeah,
and
me as well.
His improvement, his ability to function in the offense and off script, he's gotten so much better. I'm completely fine with how Marcel has played, but I wouldn't have him as the number 1 quarterback in the league right now. Matter of fact, on this list from Bill Connolly, his number 2 player is Diego Pavia. His number 3 player is Trinidad Chambliss. I would have both of them ahead of Marcel right now.
Yep.
Now, I would have Marcel in my top 5, but I actually think you could put him on an even surface with John Mateer.
The numbers are pretty comparable to a certain extent, yeah.
I would agree with that.
John Mateer's best win is
Auburn.
Michigan.
Probably Michigan at home.
Okay, yeah, Michigan.
And Marcel's is Notre Dame on the road. And I would weigh, if those two compare to each other, I'd give more weight and more gravitas to Notre Dame on the road than Michigan at home.
Yeah.
Now, what John Mateer has also been, and in this Bill Connolly article, he notes that rushing yards, his references to rushing yards and stat lines below do not include sack yardage. So John Mateer has been a massive part of Oklahoma's running game. Outside of that, when they blew out Temple, their ability to get yards on the ground has been through his legs.
Yeah.
So I think you have to factor that in. And that's the same thing with Pavia. And Olin was reading off Pavia's passing yardage, and I'm like, that really doesn't tell Pavia's whole story, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like you mentioned with Mateer in Oklahoma's run game, what is up with Jaden Ott? I thought he was electric at Cal, and he can't seem to get on the field. They've got that freshman, right?
Torrey Blaylock from Atascocita has been playing a bunch.
They've got a lot of running backs that you wouldn't really expect when you look at the depth chart early on in camp that are producing for Oklahoma. If they could get any kind of consistent run game going, that offense is going to be unbelievable, even better than it is now, because they do have to rely on Mateer occasionally to be that runner of the football.
I like what you said. As you start scrolling through this quarterback ranking list, it's hard to figure out exactly what his formula was because there's differences in QBR. I think some of it is just passing his eye test. He's got Bo Perbula at 19. And I will say this about Bo Prabula. I went into this season and I thought this guy stinks. Like Missouri's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And one of the main culprits is because I didn't think Bo Prabula was any good, and I certainly didn't know about Ahmad Hardy. Now, I could go through Missouri's schedule and you could convince me that we still don't know if they are good at all. But the helium has been let out of Bo Prabula's balloon, I think, in recent weeks. And the story for Mizzou so far now has been Ahmad Hardy in their running game.
Yeah.
I think at some point as their schedule toughens up, he's going to have to make some big throws. And if they're going to hang around this college football playoff discussion, he's going to have to play a more prominent role than he has. But the Missouri Tigers are one of the more, if I were ranking teams that, okay, who do we still not know about? Mizzou would be way up there for me.
Yeah.
Especially in the SEC. Like, they've beaten South Carolina.
Everybody's beaten South Carolina.
And that was a close game, but Lenore Sellers did play. I think Lenore Sellers is clearly South Carolina's X factor, their only chance to stay in games.
Yeah.
Without him, I think their roster is really bad.
They have one receiver, they have one running back, they have one quarterback. That is their entire offensive identity. Is we have two players. We have three players. We got the guy who can hand the ball off to a good player. We got a guy who can throw the ball to a good player. And that is all you need to worry about with South Carolina. It is quite literally the most one-dimensional offense. And that is why you see team like I go back to that Kentucky game. I'm watching it and it's like, all right, yeah. I hate playing the game of if this doesn't happen, blah, 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 because it did happen. Like South Carolina got multiple non-offensive scores and non-offensive momentum plays and strip sacks and returns for touchdowns. But if you take those away, they are in a dogfight with Kentucky. And we know Kentucky
looks so inept on
is
offense.
not good. And
so
that
bad.
South Carolina offense, like, don't look at how many points they put up. Look at how close that game would have been. It was, I believe, like 14-10 when South Carolina then had those back-to-back, back-breaking non-offensive plays.
Kentucky looks like the worst team in the league by a little bit. I don't know who I would put 15th, but I would definitely have Kentucky 16th. Like, is Arkansas 15th? Is Florida 15th?
Yeah.
But I think those schools are closer to each other than they are Kentucky. Even with Florida's issues, I think they are a good bit better than Kentucky. But here's Mizzou's schedule so far. They've beaten Central Arkansas. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Louisiana Lafayette. They've beaten South Carolina. And they've beaten UMass. They're on a bye this week. And then their next few games, they go Bama at home, on the road to Auburn, on the road to Vanderbilt, A&M at home to Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, and then they finish at Arkansas. Like, there's still 4 or 5 big question mark games up there. The way Auburn plays defense, that could be a dogfight. Like, that could be a game on the road for Bo Prabula. Has he been in an environment like Jordan-Hare?
Well, he's been in some Big Ten environments, but from watching from the sideline.
Right, exactly.
He's experienced the Penn State whiteout, but he didn't play, and it was his team being cheered for.
Right. So there's some big tests coming up. Now, if Bama goes up there and Missouri beats them, then Missouri becomes a major, major player for me in the SEC title picture, but also obviously in the playoff picture. But as of right now, I would say I don't know about Missouri.
Yeah.
And I think too many people are talking about them being one of these playoff contenders in the league. I don't know that I would group them yet in with A&M, Tennessee, Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss. I would actually kind of group them with Texas.
Yeah.
Where they could both figure it out and make the playoffs, sure. But I feel like right now, 5 weeks into the year, we know more about these other teams than we do.
Yeah. And that's just simply a factor of their schedule. Like, I thought Missouri, I think I said this last time when I was on with Richard, like, coming into the year, I thought Missouri would be a 10-2 football team because of their schedule more so than their talent. And a team like Florida has 10-2 talent, but would be more like 8-4 because of how difficult their schedule is. Now, I've been proven that Florida may just be not a good football team.
They might be cheeks.
Yes, but I haven't been proven anything by Missouri to show me that, okay, they're a legit 10-2, 11-1 football team, not because of their schedule, but because of their talent. So I think when we were all coming into this season looking at A&M's schedule, it was, all right, we know what Missouri is. We don't that quarterback doesn't strike fear in anyone's hearts. That running back doesn't. They don't have Luther Burden or Theo Weiss. Don't really have many playmakers on defense, but they've looked relatively good against the competition they've played. But that's still not competition that every other team in the SEC has played. Like, I know what Tennessee is going to look like for the rest of this year. I know what Alabama is going to look like. I don't know what Missouri or even Texas will look like, and it's October.
Yeah, I would say that Missouri and Texas in the league are my two biggest unknowns. I feel like until, it's been a while since Texas played anybody with a pulse week one. Those three non-conference games were as three of the easiest ones you can get. You look at the A&M's non-conference, especially their G4 matchups. UTSA, pretty good, probably a little bit underachieving than what they thought, but still good. Like on the roster, you look at the roster, it's old. They've got some talented kids on there. And then Utah State, I don't know if you've watched or looked at their point totals this year. So they were hanging with Vandy in Nashville for about 2.5 quarters. Vandy pulls away, but they scored 33 on Vandy. They came here, they scored 22. They're pretty good, and if you look at their schedule, like, man, Utah State could be 9-3 or 10-2.
Yeah,
with losses to Vanderbilt and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, so like you said, it's not Sam Houston, it's not UTEP
and San Jose State. Yeah. Like those are three of the most poorest teams in the country. So again, I'm not trying to dunk on Texas here. I'm not trying to spike the football, especially in week 5. What I'm saying is they are still shrouded in mystery. And what is Arch Manning?
Yeah, we're going to find out this weekend against a good Florida defense.
We're going to talk about that game tomorrow. But Josh Pate made an excellent point in his show yesterday. What would Texas's record be with Florida's schedule?
There might just be another loss in that loss column.
Yeah, sure. And he's on the flip side. He said, I think Florida would be 3-1 with Texas' schedule.
Yeah.
And Florida, when they came into the year, they knew they had a mountain to climb from August to December, but they didn't know that Florida State was going to be a little bit resurgent. Miami was going to be one of the best teams in the country. USF, one of the better G4 teams in the country, on top of everything they knew going in. So that game this weekend is extremely interesting to me. I will be locked into Texas, Florida. You go back and look at Texas's schedule last year. The only real daunting road environment they played in was right across the street.
Yep.
And a lot of the players that made the biggest plays for Texas in that game are no longer on the roster. The one that's returned is Trey Wisner, who's not been a feature player so far for him this year. So they're replacing a lot of production, and they're about to walk into a place that a lot of these players have never played in an environment like that. And this is Florida backs completely against the wall. Off a bye week, they've heard it for 2 weeks about how bad they are. Their head coach is a dead man walking. Their quarterback's hurt. They've heard all the stuff. They're getting one of their more talented freshmen who they thought was going to be an immediate impact player. He's going to return this week, Dallas Wilson at receiver. Will that help? I don't know. If DJ Lagway, if the version that we saw last is what he is going forward, to me, he's clearly hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that game against Miami, he threw maybe 2 passes beyond 10 yards. It was so much within 4 yards of the line of scrimmage. I'm like, this kid who's got a rocket arm, this is the game plan, is to throw everything within 4 yards of the line of scrimmage. That tells me something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how much better he is physically, how healthy he is. And this is a big spot for Arch Manning, a massive spot for Arch Manning, because if Texas goes in there, the over-under in this game,
it's like 41 or 42.
It's like 40, right? 41, yeah.
41.
So Vegas, is this a new meme?
It was. It's not big anymore. Continue your thoughts.
Hold on, but I want to know, is it like 6-7 or is it?
It's basically like 6-7, yeah.
So are you going to do this, Cade, every time we say 41?
I'm not going to do anything.
Okay. Because anytime on the show that we mention 6'7" or 67, or
you have to.
Cade is doing that behind the camera, and I can see his little square right there, so I see him every time he does it. But for Arch Manning, if he goes in there and stinks the world up again, Texas has got to ask a question.
Yeah.
I don't think you can bench him.
How many more Twitter graphics and comparisons to Joe Burrow's first 3 starts can the
Or his
Texas
uncles.
media, can the Texas media put out if Arch has another stinker is what I want to see is what is going to be the narrative of, okay, I know we put out the graphic of notable quarterbacks who have struggled in their first road start, but can they dig up enough info to show me elite quarterbacks that have had 2 road stinkers in their first 2 road starts? I'm interested to see what they can do because they got their interns working overtime on how to spin this stuff. But genuinely, how long can the Arch cover up be going on until they just say either 1, he's hurt, or 2, he's just not as good as everybody thought?
Well, the problem for them is that if he's bad again, like who's behind him? Who's
they
behind
brought
him?
in the transfer called. His name's is it not Julian Caldwell? You have to look. It was
Matthew Caldwell is what Matthew Dawson says. So
yeah, and he's a transfer from Dawson. Where's he from?
Troy.
That's right. He went to Troy. So
Matthew says he stinks.
Well, their high school. They have a true freshman behind him, Diabell.
Diabell's not there.
No, he's
yet,
a 26 commit. They did is it something Lacey?
Trey Owens
and KJ
Carl Lacey.
KJ Lacey. Yeah.
KJ Lacey.
So Trey Owens is a Cy-Fair kid, played with Landon Rink. But that's why I don't think you're going to bench him.
You can't.
And if you do bench him, they're going to say he's hurt.
Yeah.
Whether he is or not, that's the easy way to do it. And
you can't,
quite frankly,
you got Red River. You can't bench Arch if he plays bad this game. With Red River coming up,
yeah, you can't throw the backup to the Wolves.
What if you bench him? What if he gets benched in Red River, like a certain quarterback for Oklahoma, and then whoever's behind him, comes out and just has a banger performance? Like who was in front of Caleb Williams before?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who was that?
Who was that? It was Rattler. Yeah, thank you, Matthew Dawson. It was Rattler. Yeah, Rattler was supposed to be like the big thing, and then Caleb Williams was obviously a very highly touted prospect.
Spencer Rattler's an NFL starter.
But yeah.
I know I drafted him in my dynasty league, and people laughed at me, and I said, just wait, that dude's going to be starting. The Saints quarterback room is atrocious.
And he is starting. But it's an interesting dynamic in Austin. Not all that dissimilar to what's happening in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. DJ Lagway and Arch Manning could both be bad on Saturday. And one of them's got to win the football game.
Well, one of their defenses has to win the football game. I'm not counting on either of them to make winning plays.
Just based on, I don't know. Who would you gamble on?
Jay Paul on the YouTube's chat says Gators win 4-0.
I mean,
2 safeties.
That game would be like the media would have a fit if neither of them perform well in that game.
Yeah, but you know what? Lagway has not gotten near the leeway that Arch has.
Yeah.
No, not even close.
And actually, Lagway in his career has put more better stuff on tape than Arch. But you're right, Cade. Like, they have gotten a lot of plaudits for being something that they've never shown us to be. And that's why, like, all the quarterback rankings that were coming into the year, the only guy that was getting a lot of love that has played up to that standard is John Mateer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people were a little sheepish on Ty Simpson. And obviously Marcel had some prove-it factor that he still needed to go through.
People knew Diego Pavia was good, but they just didn't think Vanderbilt was going to do it again.
Well, and how about this? College Game Day is going to Tuscaloosa this week for a matchup with Vanderbilt. And something
Good
that
for
I had
them.
on
Good for them.
Something I had on the rundown was Johnny Manziel has now taken to Diego Pavia as a mentor, and was a quote today that said, Johnny's been talking to him, said, look, I beat him once, but don't be like me. Go beat him twice. Like, this is the stuff they build statues for. And it's been really interesting to see kind of the Alabama student section react, or the student body react to Johnny's quotes this week, because Johnny's going to be there.
On the sidelines, in a Pavia jersey.
And he's on Pavia's side. Like, there's a lot of like irony dripping here, and I don't think the Bama fans like the way it tastes right now. But we'll see what happens on Friday. On Saturday, I'm of the opinion, and I'll give my pick on this tomorrow, but I'm of the opinion right now, this is too on the nose. Bama has seen this coming. And last year, Bama didn't see it coming, and that's why Vanderbilt was able to pull off the upset. But you're not fooling them twice.
I have a quick sidebar about Diego Pavia. Is he the most like strange advocate for the University of Vanderbilt ever, like face of the university. He is absolutely nothing like probably anybody else in that university, but he is the current face of Vanderbilt.
It's
like,
funny.
At least in in sports.
My mind immediately went to Michael Irvin, but then I was like, he's literally the perfect representative of Miami.
Yeah,
Yeah, you couldn't get
100%. Yeah, couldn't be more.
I was thinking like crazy representatives of universities. He's spot on for sure, but Pavia for sure does not represent the general student body there.
But it's a funny point that Cade's making about football being they are the front porch to the university.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing people are going to see about Vanderbilt is not whatever they're doing academically and some of the stuff they've got going on off the field. It is this wild, crazy dude that came from New Mexico State whose family is a bunch of party animals in the game.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, Cade. That is not what Vanderbilt typically is.
It's wild, yeah.
I'll give you an academic institution that had a football player who was probably a very spot-on representative is Andrew Luck at Stanford.
Yeah.
Just a Stanford kind of guy. He's a Stanford
McCaffrey.
man.
And McCaffrey.
McCaffrey too, yeah. Just representatives of that university. And I don't know if anyone at Vanderbilt's campus has ever said a curse word like Diego Pavia did when, I can't say it, but he was like, Vandy, we're turn after that win. I bet you cursing is outlawed at Vanderbilt.
That would be an interesting case study. Go school by school and which faces of the university are the biggest juxtaposition to what the school typically is known for, and which ones are like spot on. So like Johnny, I think is pretty close, like not exactly A&M, but pretty close. Texas high school football legend. Haynes King would have been a great face for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
He really would have. Dad's a high school football
East
coach. He's
Texas
from
kid.
East Texas. When he talks, he sounds like he's from East Texas. And one of my favorite things, and I think the A&M fan base has been great about this, is the kids that have left, and Haynes and Connor being two of them. For the most part, if they left and everybody said, you know what, he needs to leave. He needs a change of scenery. This wasn't the place for him. And A&M, just based off what I've read on social media and then on our message board, like the Aggie fans are pulling for Haynes and for Connor.
I mean, I root for them every time they play. Chase Lane is another good example. Like those were just great kids who represented the university in a great way while they were here. And unfortunately, it just wasn't the right fit on the football field.
Left on good terms.
They left on good terms. And so that makes me want to root for Georgia Tech and Houston every time I watch them play. Like I don't think any other school really has an example of, well, obviously no other school really has 5 other starting quarterbacks across the country that used to start here. But it's that bitter, like, okay, when we play against you, we're going to root against you. But because they're in different conferences and you don't have to play against them, I think that eases the leaving on potentially bad terms. And they were such great kids to begin with. But like, I don't know if Georgia fans would be kind to Julio Humphrey if A&M played Georgia and he was starting.
Or on the flip side, Noah Thomas left, and
A&M fans are super aggressive towards Noah Thomas, and
I'm not saying anything about Noah as a kid at all. You look at the decision that he made now. He's got, is it still 3 catches for 24 yards on the season?
I think there's 6 players on A&M's team with more receiving yards than him, and he's got 3 catches, but because I think with Connor and Haynes, it was, okay, we have a different quarterback who's supposed to come in and lead this team, and it was kind of writing on the wall. You need to go find another spot if you want to start and you want to play. Whereas with Noah Thomas, it was, wait, this guy was going to be a top 3 wide receiver on the team at minimum. Why is he leaving? And then when he leaves, he's not even playing. Whereas Haynes and Connor had the talent to play here. They just kind of got passed over by another player, but they went to a school where they got to play and lead that team. Whereas you're absolutely right. With Noah, it was like, he's not even playing, so why did he leave?
Yeah.
And that's why there is that difference. You go on Twitter after Georgia plays, and it's like, my whole feed is just everybody being like, where's Noah Thomas? What is Noah Thomas doing? And you've never seen that about Haynes or Connor.
No, I don't think so. Not at all. An interesting thing to think about. Let's say Bama wins this weekend, but let's say Vanderbilt gets to 9-3 or 8-4 this year. An incredible accomplishment at Vanderbilt in the structure of this league. Clark Lee is going to be one of the more popular names in the offseason. If you are Clark Lee, is there a job open right now that you would leave Vanderbilt for?
So
you got UCLA, Oklahoma State,
No, there's
Arkansas,
not a job that's
Virginia
open
Tech.
right now. But let's say if Florida comes open, does he feel like Florida is a place where he can build that culture? Because it wasn't overnight at Vanderbilt, but now you give him more resources, or does he want to be? I mean, when I watched the Netflix show, it sounded like he wants to be a lifer at Vanderbilt and build them into the powerhouse that he thinks they can be.
Well, he's a Nashville guy.
Yeah.
And he's got his best friend as his GM.
Exactly. Does he want to leave that for a job? I mean, is Kirby Smart retiring like maybe the only job that could pull him out of Vanderbilt? In his mind, he's building Vanderbilt into a powerhouse. Is Kirby Smart, whenever he decides to leave, is taking over Georgia the only job
No.
appealing?
I think Florida would be really enticing.
Really? I don't
think
know.
so. I think he wants to stay and just I think he wants to be Vandy's guy. I think he wants to be their guy and just like
There is
build that
no
program.
Boy, that's a
pressure at
massive role.
Vanderbilt.
There isn't. And
There is so much pressure.
but you
at Florida.
risk if you stay at a place like that too long, then you are like even if that wasn't your intention to begin with, and it might be his. But it's like Jeff Traylor at UTSA. Like to me, if Jeff Traylor's going to leave San Antonio, he needs to probably do it soon.
Well, strike while the iron's hot.
Right. And you look at, we've talked about this, Cade, on the show, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, who's a great coach. But now it feels like if he was going to leave, he should have done it 3 or 4 years ago. So now he's going to be in Ames, and I think he's become a little bit more immovable. I also think, we're going to talk about Iowa State here a little bit later in the show. We do contenders, pretenders. A little bit of his shine has worn off. Like he was a super hot name a few years ago.
Yeah.
So it'll be.
I remember Michigan wanted him when.
I just think like it would be more of an accomplishment just to turn Vanderbilt into a perennial like solid team. I think that would be very respectable. That would be one of the more impressive turnarounds from any coach around the country for that program.
There are the jobs that are open right now. I very vehemently agree with you that he's not leaving Vanderbilt for any of those. If where things get interesting is if an Alabama or a Georgia or a Florida or a Texas or an LSU comes
Tennessee.
open. See, I
you don't think he would do that?
No, and I don't think he'd leave for A&M. I don't think he'd leave for Auburn.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd leave for Tennessee. I don't think he'd leave for South Carolina. But I think there is a tier where you're not going to turn it down.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. I don't know Clark Lee at all. I've seen his piece of the Netflix documentary. I agree with you. He seems like a Vanderbilt lifer, and he's all in on this thing. But there's a lot more glory to be had at a program like Florida. Now,
Matthew Dawson says he was a linebacker coach at UCLA in 2010, 2011.
he would be crazy to take that
But
job.
I agree with that as well.
Job is
That job is a nightmare.
like
They're gonna
actually
have to go-
career ender.
They're going to have to go hire. They're either going to have to go shock value to me, UCLA, and go like hire John Gruden, or they're going to have to go young up and comer who views UCLA for what I think it is right now. And like if you can go get a hot young name that can go in there and score a ton of points and make them hip and make them cool and keep those Southern California kids wanting to stay at home, you'll have a chance. But like they could screw this up and put themselves even further back. I don't know what the finances look like out there. I know the price of living is crazy. I don't know what available donor dollars are there at UCLA.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot going to basketball.
Yeah.
There is a consistent effort to make Mick Cronin in UCLA basketball a top 10 team in the country. They're spending like crazy in the portal. I know their baseball team has been pretty good as of late. Is football just batting third over there now? Like
For right now, maybe.
I mean, attendance-wise, it looks like it. I bet you there's more people watching.
You might as well put it on the back burner at this point, yeah.
More people watching UCLA basketball and baseball than there are at their average football games.
But they're not going to get back. They're not going to make some kind of comeback without pouring the money into it. They're just not, especially in the league that they're in now, with USC being back to the preeminent program in that state. That's a tough job. There's no way that Clark Lee. Now we've seen crazy stuff happen. We didn't think Lincoln Riley was going to USC either. But that would be a bad career move for Clark Lee. You're at a spot where you have built something from the ground up and it's going in the right direction in the toughest league in America. You're going to go all the way across the country to a program that's at rock bottom in the second roughest. Like you're going to do all the steps that you've already taken. You're going to do again in a place that's much harder, I think, to recruit to right now and get the backing.
Yeah.
He's put in so much effort. I don't think he wants to do that again.
I don't think he would leave. And also, what does his team look like after this year? Because Pavia isn't pulling a 7th year of eligibility out of
That's
anywhere.
another thing to think about.
Eli Stowers going to the draft. What does the rest of that team look like? Maybe this is okay, if I was going to have to rebuild at Vanderbilt already, why don't I just take my players at Vanderbilt that like me a lot, bring them to a new school with even more funding, and I'm able to build that team through the portal.
Now, if that is the way he's looking at it, then I think the amount of jobs that open up for him increases.
Yeah, then I think you could do that at Florida. You take whatever existing players you have at Vanderbilt, bring them there, and you get
But here's my question. If that's the way he's looking at it, I don't think it stops at Florida. Like, from what I understand, Florida wants to hire Lane Kiffin. Let's say that happens. Would you leave Vanderbilt for Ole Miss if you're viewing it through that lens?
The way he speaks, and again, I'm not in his mind, but from what I saw from Netflix, like I think it has to be a top 5 job if he's going to go in the conference. If he's going to leave Vanderbilt, it's got to be a Alabama, Georgia. I just don't know if Florida's in that upper echelon. Maybe Ole Miss is now.
Yeah, I think Kiffin has elevated the Ole Miss job. Once he's out of there, I think it becomes a lot.
Back down?
I think it becomes a lot harder. He's done a sensational job there. I agree with his line, like what he's probably thinking. I don't think he's wanting to bail on Vanderbilt right now. But if we don't know if he is going, man, Pavia leaves, Stowers leaves. I'm losing a lot of these older guys. I have to strike while the iron's hot, like you said. Then I do think Ole Miss is an elevated job from Vanderbilt. And so that would be another step up if it's open because Florida hires Lane Kiffin. But it's hard to keep your hands on it's hard to catch a worm. They're slippery and slimy. So Florida can think they've got their hands on Lane Kiffin, and
Auburn certainly thought they did. Did you see that Lane Kiffin documentary?
I watched a little bit of it, not all of it.
Well, I mean, I'll spoil the end for it. They put together this entire piece about how essentially Lane Kiffin hadn't accepted the Auburn job, but he was pretty dang close to it. And his daughter, or I think it was both of his daughters and his son, put together like a slideshow of all their favorite pictures of them together at Ole Miss and whatnot, and it convinced him that like, okay, you know what, I need to stay and I like it here, and I've got my daughter here, I've got my son here. They're co-parenting with his ex. Like Oxford is the place for him, but it essentially made it sound like until the daughter, the kids put together that slideshow, that he was seriously going to go to Auburn.
If the Florida job coming open would be super interesting. And remember, they had to settle with Billy Napier. He was the hot up-and-comer out of Louisiana Lafayette, but there weren't a lot of people fired up to hire him. And it sounded like they had missed on a couple of people. You never know with like what's out there in the, we live in this social media world, and we at TexAgs live in the college athletics world, but even still, like you get past stuff that you don't know the validity of. And did Dan Mullen try to burn every bridge that Florida thought they had for their next coach on his way out? There was a lot that went into that hire. I do tend to agree, or I do tend to think that Florida job will attract some rather large names. And I also think there are some young up-and-coming mid-major coaches that are intriguing. And I think profile better in the SEC than Billy Napier did.
Yeah.
And one of them's at Tulane. Everybody talks about Summerall being like a legit.
One of them's at Memphis.
Yeah, Ron Silverfield.
That's an intriguing name, I think. But I don't think it's a flashy Sunbelt Billy hire. I think what he's built at Memphis is legit.
Hey,
Golish at USF?
Golish is another one. And he seems to have, I mean, that's the Art Browse tree. Like that's the Josh Heupel tree, Jeff Lebby tree. Mm-hmm. That's where Golish comes from. Hey, Kate, turn around and ask Dawson if he's got a couple of like some of his favorite mid-major coaching names.
If you can do it at USF with Miami, Florida, Florida State, UCF, all in that state, that's pretty impressive to me.
Does Dawson have anything for us?
He said we've said most of them already.
This guy.
By the way,
he goes around parroting all these kind of G5 G5 coaches, and When I put him on the spot, he's like, "Yeah, you guys got them all." Come on, man!
3.
Like the guy at East Tennessee State's no good, or
By the way, I saw an interesting question in the YouTube chat earlier. They asked, is Texas or Bama more likely to be upset this weekend? I think the answer is pretty clearly Bama, but I think that
If Texas loses, is it an upset?
they're favored by 6.5. You'll have to pay attention to our show tomorrow where we pick games.
Yeah, but losing when you're I just don't know if I wouldn't be shocked if Florida beat Texas. I would be surprised if Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
really,
just from the
I
program
feel the
standpoint,
opposite.
you'd say Florida beating Texas historically much more common than Vanderbilt beating Alabama.
But also it's like the people look at the optics and it's like, oh, Florida's dead in the water. It would be a surprise if they upset somebody. Look at what Florida did when they were dead in the water last year. They basically saved Billy Napier's job. They are a DJ Lagway not getting hurt against Georgia away from making that a really competitive game. They beat LSU. Who else did they beat? They beat number 11 Ole Miss. They beat Florida State, who had 2 wins. But my point is, they're going to get somebody. They're going to beat somebody when you think they're dead on the canvas. The problem for A&M is you have to make sure that's not A&M. But they are going to get somebody. They beat LSU and they beat Ole Miss.
I like that A&M gets them at home.
Yeah,
I do like that.
I just
those
think
games were
that
both in the swamp, by the way.
Yeah.
They would have had to figure out how to play offense in the last week and a half. That's the problem.
Hey, but you know what? The thing about this matchup with Texas is both teams have to figure out how to play offense.
That's true,
Both
but the Texas
defenses-
defense is good.
when
And
both
he threw 5
defenses
picks
are
to
rolling-
LSU.
When both defenses are rolling, it could legitimately take one explosive play and Florida could win this thing 17-13.
What was the penalty last year that helped Florida beat LSU? Because remember, a couple years ago, it was the throwing of the shoe.
Yeah, it was Marco Wilson throwing the shoe.
There was a crazy
was
penalty
that?
last year.
Let's see.
It was like Florida got aided by another stupid 15-yard penalty by LSU.
I think it might have been somebody spitting on someone, but let me see.
Well, we had the spitting issues were earlier this season. I can't remember what it was. We talked about Lenore Sellers a little bit earlier. Are we not aware that we've entered Cocktober?
We have.
And South Carolina, they get Oklahoma and Alabama at home. They're going to so the LSU on the road this month, then Oklahoma and Alabama at home. Those are the 3 games in the month of October for South Carolina. They're winning one of those. They're going to win one of them. Somebody's going to go into Williams-Brice on a Saturday night.
A&M knows that way too well.
I know.
Which are the 2 at home again? Say it again.
Oklahoma and Bama. And
Yeah,
then they're
those are
at
both
LSU.
interesting.
They're not beating Alabama, but Oklahoma, if Mateer...
What does that hand like the rest of the year?
I don't know how credible that TexAgs post with the Chipotle worker, although I did see it unfold on Twitter, and it is apparently 100% legit that did happen. I just don't know if Mateer's just saying he's going to play against Texas or not, but, those injuries are... It doesn't take much to throw the ball and hit someone's helmet or throw the ball and a defender hits your hand and all of a sudden you're back to square one with that thumb injury. I don't know if... I would say, even though Oklahoma's ranked higher, I think I'd probably put it at the odds of them beating Oklahoma are higher than Alabama. Alabama's just something, like Josh Pate was saying, something triggered them with that Florida State loss. I just really trust Alabama at the moment.
The most impressive thing for me with Alabama, it looks like the offense is moving toward the Kalen DeBoer, Michael Penix, Washington version, where all of a sudden Ty Simpson has become super efficient. And maybe just week 1 on the road in a tough environment, they didn't all come together. And then the more they play, they're really starting to figure it out. They looked awesome. I thought they looked awesome against Georgia.
They looked really good.
But Kirby Smart just kicked a field goal.
Yeah. Kirby Smart, Kalen smarter.
Nice.
Mateer
might be in Aaron Rodgers mode these next couple of games.
You think he's on ayahuasca?
I was thinking more the Perk Rodgers mode, but
hey, whatever it takes to get you back out there for Red River.
I can tell you this, that those hand injuries, I don't know exactly what it is, but you just look at let's just say he had the same injury that Jace Lavalette had, where Jace, essentially shot it up and played the next day. But Jace was still dealing with that over a month later, even after having it operated on. Like when he got to the Guardians, he was still having issues with it. I think it's calmed down now. But like, that is your right hand. That is a major, major talking point going forward. And if you hit that thing on one helmet, it could completely re-aggravate it if it's not ready and set. I don't know what's going on exactly with all those bones in there with him, but like it required surgery, and it's going to keep him out for at least 2 weeks. Like, this is not a small thing, but Oklahoma's chances to be competitive in the playoff picture are without a doubt tied to the health of John Mateer.
Absolutely. And they can go ahead and thank Dr. Shin from, I think he's in LA. I don't know if y'all discussed this on the show last week of just how nonsensical and hilarious Twitter can be when a fan base rallies around like normally in what I was thinking was like how A&M fans were obsessed with that bird that kept coming on the field. But for OU fans, they were like making these super funny edits of Dr. Shin and basically being like that if they cure John Mateer's hand, that they should have him like run out with the team for Red River or whenever he plays, or have him introduce the starting lineup. And they were just making him out to be some really funny, like, folk hero.
What do you think Dr. Shin could fix Joe Flacco? Turn back the clock?
Nothing can fix Joe Flacco.
Well, something's going to have to fix something in Cleveland, because the Browns announced today that they are benching Joe Flacco for Dillon Gabriel, and that elicited a response from the other rookie quarterback on their roster, Shedeur Sanders. Cade, do you have that ready?
I do not have that ready.
Okay.
I apologize.
I told you not to. It's not a big deal. I just didn't know if you did it on your own accord or not. But if you have not seen this, it happened today. The gathered media inside the Cleveland locker room, they talked to Dillon Gabriel, and I know you had a point you wanted to make on that completely flew over my head. But they also talked to Shedeur Sanders, who kind of right on brand decided that he was going to pantomime his responses to these questions like an absolute buffoon. On what planet did he think that pantomiming and non-audibly answering the questions was going to be the right idea and not make him look like a complete and total clown?
My response to that was, when has he ever had a thought that was positively impacting his image?
Dude, you were embarrassed on draft night. Really. And you fell.
Said he didn't want to go play for the Ravens, and now guess what? Lamar Jackson's injured, and he could have been a starting quarterback.
And you end up in Cleveland, one of the worst franchises for quarterbacks, one of the worst franchises for any position of all time ever. And you are still so unserious, like you didn't learn your lesson. Just answer the questions professionally and move on. You don't have to be happy that Dillon Gabriel got the call ahead of you. That's fine. I think anybody would understand that. And as a competitor, you got to be okay with, like, everybody will understand. But whenever you go and make a mockery of the whole thing, that's not going to earn you any respect points. Not with the people in Cleveland, not with the national media, and certainly not with your teammates. Like, I didn't think that was funny. And it was like, I guess that's what his angle was.
Well, let's be honest here. When you look at this generation of athlete, you could say that a lot of what they, not all of them, some of them are really focused on their business, but the ones that want the attention and want the clout will do just about anything when they get in front of a camera to keep that attention on them. So maybe he felt like by doing that people would still talk about him and keep him relevant. But at the end of the day,
they are, but it's like not for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but any press is good press in the eyes of the Sanders family, it appears. And who knows what will unfold in that situation, but it's pretty clear that, look, you take two rookie quarterbacks, and I'm sure in his mind he thought he was better than Dillon Gabriel, and now they're starting him above you. It's not like they're starting a dude who's been in the league for 5 or 6 years. This is a dude with the same amount of time as you, and they're starting him over you in a pretty easy decision. Like, he's pretty clearly QB3.
You said that Dillon Gabriel trolled Shedeur Sanders with one of his responses.
Yeah, so Dillon Gabriel said to the media about when asked if he was ready for this moment, he said, "You wait for the perfect time, you're going to wait a whole lifetime. So for me, I've always been ready." And if that went over your head a little bit, it is okay, because this is a little bit deeper than just the surface level response. Shedeur Sanders, as we all know, was interested in doing a lot of things other than playing football. He was a part-time rapper while he was at Colorado. And he has a song called Perfect Timing. And that's like what goes with the celebration when he would hold up his watch and it was like perfect timing and he was showing everybody his whatever was on his wrist. And so I just thought it was a nice little subtle shot talking about Shedeur waiting for the perfect timing. And he just mentioned the song title in his response about how he's ready for this time, but Shedeur has been waiting for the perfect time. So it's good on Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, it's reality television playing out right in front of our eyes in Cleveland, Ohio for the Browns.
Yeah, and you know what? Some people in Cleveland didn't even know there was water in Cleveland. Did you see that with Lonzo Ball? So at like the NBA media days, Lonzo, first of all, there is so much that goes on in the NBA in the offseason that I find out who's on what team when they do media days. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. I didn't know Spencer Dinwiddie was on the Hornets. I didn't know Lonzo Ball was on the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that's when I find my NBA news because there's just too much going on in the offseason. And he said essentially about getting adjusted to Cleveland, he was like, yeah, I didn't even know there was water here. And people took it as he didn't think there was like running water in Cleveland. But what he actually meant was he didn't know that Cleveland was on a lake or a river.
Yeah.
And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And I want to say somebody else did that exact same thing. I want to say it was like Johnny. Somebody quote tweeted it with like a picture of his Instagram story. And it was from years ago. So that's why I think it might have been Johnny, but also it could have been some other quarterback they had, maybe Deshaun Watson, who posted like, I didn't know that there was water. Like, I didn't know this was a lake or whatever. And it was a picture like out on the water in Cleveland. So whatever it is, Cleveland, the organizations are not educating their new players that there is water near them. Everybody thinks it's in the middle of Ohio.
Well, what happened with the Guardians, speaking of Cleveland? Do you have a score for us, Kate?
They won earlier.
They did?
They put up 5 in the 8th, bottom of the 8th. I was watching at home before I came back up.
Okay, I missed the end of that one. And what else you got in terms of scores? Padres, Cubs?
The Padres, last I checked, they were up 3-0.
And that was getting late.
Yeah, it was bottom 8 when I saw.
Machado hit a homer.
You want to talk about sneaking up? I didn't know that MLB playoffs started yesterday.
3-0 final. So that one's 1-1. The end of the Yankees-Red Sox last night was electric.
I need to tap into that.
So it was Alex Bregman comes up, and even when the Astros aren't in the playoffs, Bregman still haunts the New York Yankees. So he comes up for the Red Sox, and they are up 2-1, and with a runner at second base in the top of the 9th, hooks a ball down into the left field corner for a run-scoring double to make it 3-1. Go to the bottom of the 9th. Do you know who the closer for the Red Sox is?
Nope.
Aroldis Chapman, still kicking.
Still kicking it? What is he, 40?
He's 37, still throwing over 100.
Oh, my gosh.
And don't forget, like famously a closer also with the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
So he's on the mound in the Bronx, and the first 3 hitters in the bottom of the 9th for the Yankees single in
I saw he
5 total
bases,
pitches.
Right? Yeah.
So 5 total pitches, 3 singles, bases loaded, nobody out, strikeout, lazy fly ball to right that can't score a run, strikeout to get out of it. And the Yankees, for all their pomp and circumstance all season long, they're one game away from being eliminated by their biggest rivals. And when you have these 3-game series, it's something like 70% of the teams that win game 1 win the series. So that's why it's super interesting today that the Guardians beat the Tigers and the Padres beat the Cubs, because that evened up those series.
Flipped.
Bo Naylor hit a real man bomb earlier today.
Texas
It was like a 3-run. It was a 3-run bomb, and he had to reach out for it, reach like real hard. And
he and his brother
scooped it off the ground and barely got it over the fence. It was pretty ridiculous.
He and his brother were committed to A&M.
Wow. What's his brother doing?
He plays in the big leagues too. It's Tristan. Is it Tristan?
Josh.
Josh Naylor. Josh and Bo. Yeah, MLB playoffs have been electric. When I said this about the playoffs yesterday, Major League Baseball playoffs, and we didn't know about the NBA, but we felt like the NBA was probably adjacent to this. For me, because the baseball season is so long, they play 162. There's not another sport where you get a bigger ramp up from regular season to playoffs than Major League Baseball. And I feel like the NBA, they play 82, right?
Yeah.
That's probably similar. Where like in game 75, like you're going to turn it up another level to game 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, the NBA playoffs to me, you know what has the most entertaining first round is the NHL, but we'll get into that at another time. The NBA, I can't remember the last time there was just a year where every first round series was electric. And that's how the MLB playoffs are set up. Like those 3-game series, less teams make it. It's supposed to be more electric. But when one plays 8, 2 plays 7, really to me every year is like, okay, I know the 4-5 matchup is going to be good. The 3-6, maybe it'll swing one way or another. But for the most part, the NBA playoffs don't really ramp up until the second round. Now, NHL, the way their format works, every round is electric. Like I think the NHL has a really big ramp up from end of the regular season to the first round of the playoffs.
Is NBA five-game series in first round?
No, it's all 7.
They're all set. So yeah. Like with baseball, a sport where your playoff seeding is determined by 162.
Yeah.
A 3-game series is such a small sample size that anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like you could be 10 to 15 games better than the team you're playing in a 3-game set and still lose it.
Yeah. Another thing with the NBA is adding the play-in games. It just makes it kind of a anticlimactic start to the playoffs because it's like, all right, I'm about to watch 4 teams play that are like all barely above 500, all just for them to play 2 games to have to even get into the playoffs after they had 82 games to see if they could get there. You got to play games to get into the playoffs. All that just so you can get beaten 4 or 5 games by the 1 or the 2 seed. It's just like start the dang playoffs already. If you're going to do a play-in game, make it for the 8 versus 9 seed. Winner gets the 8 seed. But the fact that we have to go 7, 8, 9, 10, and those 4 teams got to play to decide 2 seeds just to get beat. It's like, why are we going through all this extra process? It's probably just to give other players rest, to be honest with you. It's just like start the playoffs. Like start with a bang. That's why I love hockey, because it's like literally anybody can beat anybody, and the best series are always the first round. I will take the first round of the NHL playoffs over the second round any day, because for whatever reason, those dudes are just always ready to hit. Whereas it's basketball, it's like, all right, yeah, the talent mismatch is so overloaded, and you're playing a team that just had to go, I don't know, they won 45 games and they squeaked their way into being the 8th seed, and you know they're going to get blown out by the 1 seed.
Well, that's the way I feel about the Reds playing the Dodgers. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. The collapse of the New York Mets is epic. Like that is an all-time collapse meltdown by a Major League Baseball team, because the Cincinnati Reds, I don't know if you heard this yesterday, the Reds went 40-40 over their last 80 games and caught the New York Mets.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
How big of a lead did they have? Like 20 plus?
Oh, I don't know if it was that high. You're probably thinking of the Tigers with the division lead over the Guardians.
Tigers had like a 15-game division lead on the Guardians.
Yeah, and they got caught. But still, like,
I will say about playoffs, I think that I'm going to say that I kind of hate how the NHL and the NBA, they do the 7-game series first round. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's too many games in the first round. Make it 5.
That's what makes the series
great.
Make
it 5. It does make it good, but it's just the only reason that they've done it is to draw out the playoffs and draw out the money. That's the only reason they've done it. They haven't done it for any other reason.
Look, these 3-game sets that Major League Baseball is playing, they're essentially super regionals, dude.
The 3-game sets, I think it's a little bit, it's electric, and I think that they could make it 5. But I'm glad that they do 5. I'm glad that it's 5 games for the ALDS. If they made this wild card 5 too, I'd be fine with it. But just don't do the 7 in the first round is unnecessary. It's too long. It makes it far too long, and especially the way the NHL and NBA do it, where they do 2-2, 1-1-1. Because it adds an extra day of travel every single time. It's ridiculous. It's just too much time. It's like a whole series takes 2 weeks if you're going to play 7.
Staying on baseball, something that's hit a lot of my algorithm quite a bit on Instagram and Twitter. This rumor mill, and that's what it is right now. This rumor mill regarding Tony Vitello taking the managerial job for the San Francisco Giants. Very interesting to think about. As I start talking about just the angles of it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then before I hopped on the show, Baseball America, they did a video openly talking about this being a possibility and how it would work. Do you realize that Major League Baseball managers don't make that much money?
I did not know that. How much?
It's not. Let me look up MLB average managerial salary. It's strikingly low. Okay, some top managers earn over $3 million annually, while others earn significantly less. Let's see. Padres manager Bob Melvin earned around $4 million in 2024, one of the highest salaries in the league. Tony Vitello is making close to $3 million or over $3 million now as the head coach at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So these college baseball coaches are making as much as the big league coaches. So you look at that and you go, okay, would Tony really leave a place where he's won a national championship and built a powerhouse for professional baseball to make probably they're going to have to bump him a little bit, obviously, to get him off, but you'd be moving from Tennessee to California.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at his managerial style.
I was just thinking that. I don't know if he's a very professional.
Yeah, how is that going to play with
the antics?
28 to 33-year-olds? You know what I'm saying? Like, he would obviously have to tone it down pitch to pitch, game to game. But there must be something to this because there's so many national outlets picking it up now.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some digging to see how real this is and just through the agent world and the baseball people that I talk to. But you want to talk about a shakeup in the SEC. That'd be pretty – and when it would happen, like school's already started. Tennessee started their fall ball. I'm sure they're hosting exhibition games like A&M is. And you'd pluck him. You'd have to pluck him before you'd probably get him in November, October or later this month or in November because he's got to get in with the organization, get ready for spring training, all this type of stuff. That I don't know that I can't remember that college baseball had ever seen a in the year shakeup like that.
Brauny, would that cause a total collapse for that program at Tennessee? Do you think that would cause a total collapse?
Maybe not this year, but probably going forward. Now they've got a great staff. Frank Anderson is their pitching coach. He's been around the block forever. He's been a head coach. They have one of the most promising and respected assistant coaches / hitting coaches in Josh Elander, who played at TCU. They could probably steady the ship for a season, especially a guy like Frank Anderson, he's been in the game forever, right? But long term, like there's no doubt that Tony Vitello completely energized that program. But look, maybe he's single. Maybe he's just looking for another challenge. And there's no doubt that, he listened when this A&M job came open as well. So maybe he's always had something in the back of his mind that Knoxville isn't his final place. But this would be, in my world, this would be super interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned late coaching changes, essentially in season or right before the season's about to start. Obviously, Bruce Pearl is the big one at Auburn, but their names are escaping me right now. But there were two more coaches earlier this month that left. One of them, and I forget what school it was, but it was a smaller group of 5 school, essentially a mid-major. One of them left to go coach with the Knicks, and another one got fired because of some investigation. It's a whole thing, but basically he's innocent anyways. Those are 3 teams now in college basketball who the seasons are about to start. So in between 2 months before your season's starting, your coach is out. And that if Tony Vitello does take that job, that's just another example of a coach leaving right before the season's about to start. When has that ever happened? Like, I've never heard of that happening in college basketball, and it happened 3 times in the last 2.5 weeks. And one at a program that is in the top conference in the country.
As of this article came out 48 minutes ago, and it's from Sports Illustrated, the Tennessee on SI. Tennessee baseball's Tony Vitello named a candidate for another MLB team. So they talked about the Giants, the other one, the Atlanta Braves.
Interesting. I was wearing my Braves shirt yesterday.
He got fired or he stepped down today. Was that correct?
Yes. And according to The Athletic, Vitello has met with the director of operations for the San Francisco Giants, who's Buster Posey. Florida State legend, college baseball legend, Buster Posey. This is interesting, man.
What if this is another attempt to try and get a raise out of Tennessee? Because didn't he just get that big one from...
He just hit that administration for that new ballpark raise. the whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
Be nasty work.
That would be, but maybe he's just crazy enough to do it.
Yeah.
To squeeze every ounce of money out of that program, just as their football team's getting back into it. Their basketball team's always been good, but oh my goodness.
You could honestly say goodbye to that basketball program if they have to feed him more money.
I don't know. Rick Barnes has done a good job.
Yeah, well, Barnes is also probably a year or two away from stepping down. But they're going to hire Tennessee basketball is always going to be good. He's set that program up for great success.
All right, coming up on the finale, which is a We Learned Wednesday, I've got a couple of interesting origins and a very interesting historical date that I came across today. But one of the final things on my rundown for today, ahead of that, is contender or pretender non-SEC edition. Bickham, I do want to get Dawson's thoughts on some of these. So I don't know if he's got headphones on and can hear us. He does. Okay, so we're just going to go around and I'm going to give you the list of these teams. Again, these are non-SEC teams. You think they are a contender to get into the college playoff, football playoff, or are they a pretender? And we are going to start with the Hoosiers. Is Indiana a contender or a pretender?
Yeah, they're a contender. I need to see them play Oregon, and if they lose by 4 scores, they're still probably a contender just because there's no other team on that schedule that'll challenge them. They're going to get into the playoff unless they lose inexplicably to, like, I don't know, Michigan State or somebody bad.
I thought
they're going to be in it. Like, it's unfortunate that the Big Ten will lobby and say it's not fair that the SEC plays less conference games, but then it's like every SEC team would switch that schedule in a heartbeat. You're telling me the second toughest game you got to play is Illinois? Like actually, that any SEC team would take that in a heartbeat
before the season,
and they're going to get in simply because they beat who they should beat and don't lose by 70 to a team that should beat them.
They do have to play Penn State still.
Still, with losses to Penn State and Oregon,
I'm leaning toward contender, and I'm saying that as a guy that before the season I thought it was a great story last year. Their schedule was a joke. This was going to be an 8-4, 7-5 football team, but I lean toward contender for Indiana.
Me too. I didn't think Fernando Mendoza was that good, but like, look at their schedule. Yeah, you can lose to Oregon and Penn State by as much as you want, but unless Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Wisconsin, or Purdue, which, by the way, I might have just named the entire bottom 5 of the Big Ten.
They're so bad.
Unless one of those teams beat them, they're going to get in at 10-2.
You did. Matthew Dawson has confirmed that you did name the bottom 5 in the Big Ten.
Oh, by the way, they just beat Iowa
Minnesota
by 5, so maybe that was the bottom 6. It's just ridiculous. Every SEC team.
You don't think the committee will hold that over their head? Like, hey, like you didn't play anybody, and the 2 real teams you played, you lost to?
I bet you they will, and that if any team in the Big Ten is vulnerable to that 9-3 SEC versus 10-2 Big Ten discussion, it would be Indiana.
Yep, I lean contender. Cade?
I also lean contender. I'm with Luke on Mendoza. I think Mendoza is really solid. Matthew Dawson, do you have a... Matthew Dawson says contender.
Contender. All right, moving on. Staying in the same state, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think they're a contender. They are going to roll everybody on their schedule, and I think they beat USC at home by a couple of scores. I think they're a contender.
I think they're legit. Again, I think that A&M win will just continue to age better and better with every passing week, and they don't have a tough non-conference schedule. They've already played their 2 toughest teams, but I think I've seen enough out of CJ Carr in the running game. Let's hope the defense gets better, but I think Notre Dame's a legitimate team, and it's just unfortunate they had to play their 2 toughest games first, and so the narrative with them will get spun. But they're a legitimate team. They'd probably beat Indiana if they played tomorrow.
I think so too.
Yeah, we're both on the contender front back here as well. I think it's hard to go against when you have 2 running backs that could start basically anywhere in the country. That's very helpful, and obviously their offense looks great, and their defense. They really shut it down against Arkansas. That's not a bad offensive team. I mean, they were maybe they were dragging their feet a little bit to get old Bobby P in there, but I mean, they only put up 13 the whole game. Put up 0 in the second half.
It wouldn't surprise me if Petrino put melatonin in the water bottles to slow those guys down because he knew. Like I think that was a mutiny. I've said it twice. Like that was a treacherous first mate that called a mutiny on the captain of the ship.
I just don't. Bobby Petrino was already calling the offense. Like, what does him getting full control do? Is he going to call defense now?
Well, no, because he fired everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So who's going to call the defense on that staff?
I don't know.
I just don't see what Bobby Petrino having control of the most important unit on the field, who, by the way, they couldn't even crack 20, or did they crack 20 on Notre Dame?
No, it's 56 to 13.
It was 13.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they scored all of them in the first half.
You had your chance. You're telling me if it was a mutiny, he told the offense to purposely play bad? I don't think so.
I'm guessing Dawson's on contender for Notre Dame?
He is.
Okay. Penn State. Go ahead, Luke.
Oh,
I mean, they're just perennial. They feast off the bottom feeders in that conference, and they played the one good team they're going to play all year pretty close. They probably could have won that game, but I just don't think Drew Aller's any good. But I think Penn State is a contender simply by the fact that you can't find me 3 teams on their schedule that could beat them and make them an 8-4. Because even at 9-3, any team that's 9-3 and better in a major conference is a contender for the playoff. You can't find me more games that's going to make them an 8-4 team. It's just not on their schedule. So because of that, they have to be a contender, even though I could probably name you 7 teams in the SEC that beat them tomorrow.
Contender for the playoff, pretender for a national championship.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's basically what our thoughts were. I think they could lose one of those other ones.
They'll
honestly.
probably lose to Ohio State, but
yes, I agree with
Indiana.
that. But they.
What about Nebraska?
If they lose to Indiana, they are a pretender. If they're 9-3, they're not making it.
Yeah, that's
they're
fair.
just not.
There's a lot of
I'm gonna say
toxicity around that
pretender.
program right now. Like, things are not good in Happy Valley. The opposite of happy.
Unhappy Valley. Unhappy Valley.
They are. Texas A&M fans hate Texas 8-4, but it was true. They couldn't. It was very rare that A&M won more than 8 games. Penn State is just simply 10-2 perpetually. But the problem is they have higher standards than that. Just the same way that A&M has higher standards. Their average record is just a couple games better because they play an easier schedule. What is Texas A&M if they would have played Penn State's schedule for the last 20 years?
James Franklin turns into a pumpkin.
Right.
Any big game. It's
the same exact thing with A&M. Until you prove that you're better than that, I'm never going to say Penn State is a contender to win the national championship until they prove that they can win a big game. Mike Elko is doing what he can to change that narrative of A&M. They've won a couple big games, but until Penn State shows me they can win a single big game, they're never going to be better than just a good team in the Big Ten that is good because of their schedule, but they're not elite. They're never going to be elite with Drew Aller.
The Florida State Seminoles.
Contender.
That's difficult.
Can I go TBD?
Yeah, I need to see
after
this
Saturday
weekend.
night. I'll know.
That's totally fair. Yeah, I think so too. But I also think that I feel like they're still the very clear-cut second best team in the ACC, and I think the ACC has a better chance of getting 2 bids than the Big 12.
I don't disagree with that. I think one of those will probably get 2. Here's my analysis on Florida State so far. I think we've seen the ceiling of Tommy Castellanos.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the floor, and I think he will start getting drugged closer to that floor the more that they play him in Gus Malzahn's offense.
That's interesting. I think that's a good point. Matthew Dawson says pretender.
Yeah, the thing with Florida State...
I would lean pretender more than contender with Florida State right now. I think they're going to get beat by 2 scores this weekend.
Yeah,
I
think that's fair, and I would say they're more pretender than contender, just because there are games on their schedule where it's like I can't write that in as an automatic win, like I can with an Indiana. Like I know none of those teams at the bottom of the Big Ten are going to beat them, but Virginia's not a bad team. Clemson has a ton of problems, but they are a talented team that could beat Florida State when they play at Death Valley. Wake Forest is not a horrible team. Florida's not a horrible team. Like these are games that are on Florida State's schedule that are not on some of these other teams we've been discussing that are losable games for them. Like people see the Virginia Tech upset and it's like, oh, Florida State lost to the Virginia upset. Virginia's horrible. They don't even play football. They're a basketball school, but there's talent on that Virginia team and they just beat them on that given night. Like Chandler Morris is not a horrible quarterback. That is a decent Virginia team. And I kind of liken it to maybe like a Georgia almost losing to Georgia Tech last year. Like Georgia Tech is not a bad team, but they are a capable team to beat you on any given night. There are not a lot of those teams in the Big Ten, but there are a lot of those teams in the ACC, which is why I probably lean more contender just because Florida State is more prone to getting bit by one of those teams on any given night. And I think they may get
So
bit.
you lean pretender.
Yeah, sorry, pretender. Yeah. And I think they may get bit one more time before the year's over, not by a known quantity in Miami, but by a Wake Forest, a Clemson, or a Florida.
You mentioned Chandler Morris. It's a good segue to our next team, the North Texas Mean Green. Are they a contender to get that group of 4 spot?
They're a contender to have the best quarterback story in all of college football with Drew Mestamaker, who never started a varsity game, but I don't know. I feel like that's Memphis's to lose.
So I would.
They're a contender.
I've watched more of Memphis actually than UNT. I would lean that way, and because we're talking about one spot here, I'm gonna go pretender at the risk of North Texas and Eric Morris making me look very, very stupid.
There's certainly a contender for it, but they're never going to have a better win than Memphis beating Arkansas. They're not going to have a better win than USF beating Florida. Their best win on their schedule might be if they beat South Florida or if they beat UTSA. There's
some potholes coming up. I mean, Navy's not going to be easy.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But it's just those other 2 teams that I'm putting ahead of them have a SEC win, and I just don't see a
the good thing for is they get all the tough games are in Denton.
Yeah,
they get South Florida and Denton, UTSA and Denton. They go to Charlotte. They get Navy and Denton. They go to UAB. They go to Rice, and then Temple comes to them. They are going to win double-digit games at least.
Yeah, well, then I guess it's them against Memphis in the championship game. Then
it's the same league.
They're playing a lot of the same teams. I'm pretty sure
I guess they just miss out on each other. Where we at on UNT? Okay.
I'll go I will go contender, and Matthew Dawson also flashed that he thinks they are a contender.
Okay. Iowa State.
Well, 3 of the best group of 5 teams are all. It's just whoever wins the American is going to be that G5, and so of course I would agree they're a contender.
Iowa State. We talked about the Big 12 potentially being a 2-bid league.
Nope.
I'm on pretender. I've watched enough Iowa State this year to believe that they don't play a level. First of all, they don't have a talent watermark that is great enough for them to play poorly and win games. They did it once at Arkansas State, and they should have lost. They got completely bailed out by the officials in Jonesboro. I've seen more talented Iowa State teams. I'm not sold on Rocco Becht, and I would have them as a pretender right now.
I think they're a contender because the Big 12 is a 2-bid league. You have to kind of assume that it's just whoever makes the Big 12 championship are probably. I don't have
to assume the Big 12 is a 2-bid league because I could say the ACC is going to be a 2-bid league.
No, you're right, but they are undefeated. They're already highly ranked, and they don't have to play Texas Tech. They get Arizona State and BYU as right now the only ranked teams they're going to play the rest of the season. They have to go. I mean, they get BYU at home. They get Arizona State at home. Their 2 toughest games the rest of the year will be at home. They're already undefeated in the Big 12. They split those games and take care of the rest. They're going to be in the playoff at 1 loss. So by that definition, I have to say a contender when
I do not think they're good.
I know, but the schedule imbalance, if you're not playing Utah and you're not playing Texas Tech, you have a cakewalk in the Big 12.
Let's not.
Okay, but Utah could probably, all I'm saying is like, it's Texas Tech in my mind, and then there's a whole pack of teams like BYU, Arizona State, Iowa State, Utah. When you don't play that top pack, that top team, and then only a couple from that, they could bite you on any given day pack.
And all of those, they could bite you are on the road. Cincy, Colorado, and TCU.
No, it's TCU, Cincy, and Colorado, absolutely not. Cincy has a decent.
Do you think Iowa State is?
Matthew Dawson says Cincy is favored.
I still think Iowa State.
That's what I'm saying.
Game.
Like, you think Iowa State is so good Like they're so much better than those teams I just mentioned that they can't. I could easily see them losing 2 of those 3 at Cincinnati, at Colorado, at TCU.
Yeah, Brony, I'm with you. I'm on the pretender train here a little bit too. I just think like you said, they got to play Arizona State still. That's going to be
at home.
I think they play them okay. I really don't care if it's at home or away.
Ooh.
I think Kenny Dillingham is. I think he's going to get that team right. Honestly, I think that Mississippi State game was a legitimate wake up call for that team, and they know how to win close games clearly. But I don't know. There are too many games on that Iowa. You say Matthew Dawson. You said they play Kansas as well.
Kansas, they get Kansas.
I'm not afraid of Kansas.
But Kansas can play offense. Kansas can Jalen Daniels can sling it. So like,
Kansas is good, according to Matthew Dawson.
They're a decent team, but to me, there's an upper echelon in the Big 12. The only teams they play in that upper echelon, they don't play all of them, and they get most at home.
Texas Tech is the upper echelon in the Big 12.
I mean like below Texas Tech.
But like they might be the only team who's actually like good.
Well, the Red Raiders are our final team on this list, and they are a contender.
Yes, absolutely.
And they are legitimately, they're doing the reseeding after the 12 playoff teams are announced. I don't think that they're going to be a team that gets a bye, but they could be a team that gets a home game. And you want to talk about a complete circus of a scene, go to Lubbock for a home playoff game. And there is a world. We are October 1st. We are a long way from this world, but there is a world that exists that the Texas A&M Aggies are going to Lubbock, Texas in the first round of the playoffs.
That would be crazy.
That world does exist right now. So just prepare yourself.
The hostility in Lubbock, Texas that weekend, off the charts.
It's not just A&M. It could be Texas too.
Yeah. That would rival what Omaha looked like a couple of years ago when it was just like LSU, Arkansas, like all those SEC teams that just hated each other. And
that was good stuff. Good exercise
will
there.
go off. Lubbock Logies will be going off.
All right. We learned Wednesday to close the show. I found this out today. Just kind of through my scrolls. Very interesting here. Have you ever heard of of something called Porky's Prank?
Nope.
Porky's Prank. On April 1st, 1974, residents of Sitka, Alaska were alarmed when the long dormant volcano neighboring them, Mount Edgecombe, suddenly began to belch out billows of black smoke. People spilled out of their homes onto the streets to gaze up at the volcano, terrified that it was active again and might soon erupt. Luckily, it turned out that man, not nature, was responsible for the smoke. A local practical joker named Porky Bicker had flown hundreds of old tires dipped in kerosene into the volcano's crater, lit them on fire, and dropped them, all in a successful attempt to fool the city's dwellers into believing that the volcano was stirring to life. According to local legend, when Mount St. Helens erupted 6 years later, a Sitka resident wrote to Bickar to tell him, "This time you've gone too far." In the side of the mountain, he wrote, because the town of Sitka summoned their National Guard to fly a helicopter over Mount Edgecombe to look at the volcano and what was happening. In the side of the snow on the mountain, he wrote April Fools.
Wow.
That's awesome.
What a good prank.
Great prank.
It is over the top. I mean, you got to admit that you got to be committed to the bit in a major way to pull that one off. A couple more. We learned Wednesdays the origin of the color turquoise. Are you aware where this comes from?
No.
So in the 1600s in France, the wealthy of France would often have these stones delivered to their market via Turkish importers. And the stones were the color turquoise. And because they were coming from Turkish importers, they named them turquoise, which is the French for Turkish.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
And I like the color turquoise.
Miami Dolphins?
Yeah.
They had some hideous jerseys on the other night.
No.
Hideous.
No,
I didn't like
those
them.
were clean. Those were so clean.
I don't like black whenever your primary colors are like that turquoise, teal, and orange.
I like it.
It was clean.
It was fire.
All right, my last We Learn Wednesday here, exiting the show. The origin of the word quintessential. Okay. In ancient Greece, Aristotle predicted that, or knew that there were 4 essential elements: earth, wind, water, and fire. But he predicted that there had to be another element that encompassed the heavens and the heavenly bodies. So this became known as the 5th element. You may know that there was a movie called The 5th Element in the 90s. Okay, you fast forward, and the Romans take this 5th element idea, and they put their words to it, which is quinta. So something that is quintessential is something that is important and can't be overlooked. It dates back to the 5th element that Aristotle thought existed in the world.
I've learned something today.
Well, that's why we call it We Learned Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be back on the host desk tomorrow for TexAgs Live. Luke will be back here next to me tomorrow. We're going to pick a lot of college football games, and I am leaving it up to Luke to come up with our Thunderdome Thursday bit. So we'll see what happens. I think food is going to
eat something.
Where food's going to be involved. But we appreciate you tuning in with us on your drive home, and we will see you tomorrow.